Prisons are intended to serve as facilities for rehabilitation and punishment, but some detention centers around the world are notorious for their abysmal conditions. In the United States, a few prisons stand out for their extreme lack of sanitation, overcrowding, and overall inhumane conditions. These institutions not only fail to provide basic living standards, but also expose inmates to severe health risks and psychological trauma. We will explore the historical context, notorious conditions, and key incidents that have cemented their reputations as some of the most appalling places of incarceration. Men's Central Jail, Los Angeles. Men's Central Jail, MCJ, is part of the Los Angeles County Jail System, one of the largest jail systems in the United States. It was opened in 1963 to address the growing need for a larger detention facility in Los Angeles County. The jail was designed to house pretrial detainees and individuals serving short sentences. Over the years, Men's Central Jail has expanded to accommodate more inmates, but it has consistently struggled with overcrowding. The facility was originally designed to hold around 5,000 inmates, but at times it has housed significantly more, leading to severe overcrowding and associated problems. Men's Central Jail is notorious for its harsh and unsanitary conditions, making it one of the most feared and dirtiest places of incarceration in the United States. The jail often operates well beyond its intended capacity. Cells designed for a few inmates are frequently packed with many more, forcing some inmates to sleep on the floor or share beds. Overcrowding exacerbates all other issues, including sanitation, violence, and access to healthcare. It also leads to a higher incidence of disease transmission and increases tension among inmates. The facility is notorious for its lack of proper maintenance. Cells and common areas are often filthy, with infrequent cleaning leading to the accumulation of dirt, mold, and grime. Inmates have limited access to showers, clean water, and personal hygiene products. Plumbing issues are common, resulting in non-functional toilets and sinks, which further degrade living conditions. Reports of rodent and insect infestations are frequent. The presence of vermin contributes to the unsanitary environment and poses additional health risks to inmates. Overcrowding and harsh conditions contribute to a high level of violence among inmates. Fights and assaults are common, and the lack of adequate supervision exacerbates these issues. There have been numerous reports of abuse and excessive force by guards. The jail has been the subject of several investigations and lawsuits related to the mistreatment of inmates. Inadequate health care. Access to medical care is severely limited. Inmates with serious health conditions often do not receive timely or appropriate treatment. Mental health care is also grossly inadequate, despite the high prevalence of mental illness among the inmate population. Unsanitary conditions and overcrowding have led to outbreaks of infectious diseases such as tuberculosis and MRSA. The lack of proper medical facilities and hygiene practices exacerbates these outbreaks. Men's Central Jail has been the subject of multiple federal investigations. In 2013, the U.S. Department of Justice launched an investigation into allegations of excessive force and inmate abuse by deputies. Numerous lawsuits have been filed against the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, LASD, for abuse, neglect, and failure to provide adequate medical care. Settlements and judgments have cost the county millions of dollars. Several inmate deaths have occurred under suspicious circumstances, often related to violence, neglect, or lack of medical care. These incidents have drawn significant media attention and public outcry. Men's Central Jail has housed many high-profile inmates over the years, including celebrities, gang leaders, and notorious criminals. The presence of these inmates has sometimes led to heightened security concerns and media scrutiny. Facilities infrastructure, improve sanitation, and reduce overcrowding. These plans have faced budgetary and logistical challenges. Men's Central Jail is widely regarded as one of the worst prisons in the United States due to its appalling sanitary conditions, severe overcrowding, high levels of violence, and inadequate medical care. Despite numerous calls for reform and closure, the facility remains operational, continuing to subject inmates to inhumane conditions. The history of scandals, investigations, and high-profile incidents highlights the deep-rooted issues within the jail and underscores the urgent need for comprehensive reforms to protect the rights and well-being of those incarcerated within its walls. Baltimore City Detention Center, Baltimore. The Baltimore City Detention Center, BCDC, has a long history, dating back to its establishment in the early 19th century. Originally designed to hold a few hundred inmates, the facility expanded over the years to accommodate the growing number of detainees. It served primarily as a pre-trial detention center for individuals awaiting trial or sentencing. Imagine a place where hope fades as quickly as the sun sets behind barbed wire and concrete walls. A facility so infamous that it stands as a testament to human neglect and systemic failure. For decades, this institution has been a revolving door of misery, corruption, and violence. Picture this: a powerful gang, the Black Guerrilla Family, BGF, running a criminal empire from within the prison walls. In 2013, federal indictments revealed a shocking truth. The gang had taken control of the jail with the help of corrupt correctional officers. Guards smuggled in contraband, including cell phones, drugs, and weapons. They even engaged in relationships with inmates, blurring the lines between authority and criminality. The power dynamics were turned upside down, and the gang operated with impunity, orchestrating crimes both inside and outside the facility. For the inmates, daily life was a nightmare. Violence was a constant companion. Imagine living in fear of being assaulted at any moment. Inmates faced brutal beatings, stabbings, and even deaths at the hands of fellow prisoners. The guards, meant to protect and maintain order, were often complicit or outright abusive. In one notorious case, guard Terrence Pendergrass was sentenced to prison for denying medical care to an inmate, leading to the inmate's death. The message was clear: survival depended not on justice, but on power and fear. The physical conditions of BCDC were no better. Overcrowding was rampant. Cells meant for 1 or 2 inmates often housed 4 or more. Imagine trying to sleep on a cold, hard floor, crammed next to others, with barely enough room to breathe. Hygiene was a distant dream. Broken plumbing led to overflowing toilets and raw sewage in cells. Inmates had limited access to showers, clean water, and basic hygiene products. Mold, mildew, and pests became their constant companions. Healthcare at BCDC was a grim joke. Inmates with serious health conditions waited endlessly for medical attention. Picture being in excruciating pain, knowing that help might never come. Many inmates suffered and died from preventable illnesses. Khalif Browder's tragic story brings this to life. A young man who spent nearly 3 years in BCDC without trial, enduring unimaginable abuse, and ultimately taking his own life after his release. His story is a haunting reminder of the system's failure. The neglect extended to mental health care. Inmates with psychological issues were left to deteriorate. The stress of overcrowding, violence, and neglect pushed many to the brink. Suicidal thoughts and self-harm became distressingly common. In this environment, hope was not just lost, it was systematically crushed. The horrors of BCDC did not go unnoticed. Investigations, lawsuits, and public outcry led to some reforms, but the deep-seated issues required more than just surface fixes. In 2015, the decision was made to close BCDC, but the echoes of its failures still resonate. As we recount these tales of despair, let us remember the names and faces behind the statistics, and that its closure was necessary to protect the rights and dignity of inmates. Local politicians and community leaders also pushed for the jail's closure and the construction of more modern and humane facilities. In 2015, following years of scandals, lawsuits, and public pressure, Maryland Governor Larry Hogan announced the immediate closure of the Baltimore City Detention Center. The decision was hailed as a victory by human rights advocates and former inmates. After the closure, inmates were transferred to other facilities within the Maryland correctional system. Efforts were made to ensure that these transfers did not result in further overcrowding or deterioration of conditions at the receiving facilities. The Baltimore City Detention Center was widely regarded as one of the worst detention facilities in the United States due to its appalling sanitary conditions, severe overcrowding, high levels of violence, and inadequate medical care. Despite numerous calls for reform and closure, the facility remained operational for many years, subjecting inmates to inhumane conditions. The history of scandals, investigations, and high-profile incidents highlights the deep-rooted issues within the detention center and underscores the urgent need for comprehensive reforms to protect the rights and well-being of those incarcerated within its walls. The eventual closure of BCDC marked a significant step towards addressing these issues, but it also highlighted the ongoing challenges faced by the broader correctional system in Maryland and across the United States. Rikers Island, New York. Rikers Island, located in the East River between the Bronx and Queens, was first purchased by New York City in 1884. The island was initially used as a landfill before the first jail facility was constructed in 1932, a name synonymous with fear, violence, and despair. It stands as one of the most notorious detention facilities in the United States, a place where overcrowding, corruption, and brutality converge to create a living nightmare. Rikers Island is not just one jail, it is a sprawling complex of 10 jails spread across 400 acres. Originally designed to hold around 15,000 inmates, Rikers today houses fewer, yet still struggles with overcrowding. Imagine a place meant to be a temporary holding facility for pretrial detainees, short-term convicts, and those awaiting transfer, now bursting at the seams with humanity. The inmates of Rikers Island come from all walks of life. Here you'll find those accused of minor offenses alongside individuals charged with violent crimes. The population includes everyone from petty thieves to alleged murderers, creating a volatile mix that breeds tension and conflict. High turnover rates add to the chaos, as new faces arrive daily, further straining an already overburdened system. Overcrowding at Rikers Island is not just a statistic, it is a daily reality that crushes the spirit. Cells designed for 1 or 2 inmates often house 3 or 4. Inmates sleep in shifts, taking turns to lie down on filthy mattresses or the cold, hard floor. Imagine the constant noise, the lack of privacy, the sheer impossibility of finding a moment's peace. Overcrowding breeds tension, and tension erupts into violence. The physical conditions at Rikers are appalling. Overcrowded cells reek of sweat and despair. Plumbing is often broken, leading to overflowing toilets and raw sewage in living areas. Mold, mildew, and vermin are constant companions. Inmates have limited access to clean water, showers, and basic hygiene products. Imagine trying to maintain your dignity while living in filth, surrounded by the stench of human waste and decay. Healthcare at Rikers is a grim reflection of its overall neglect. Inmates with serious medical conditions wait endlessly for treatment. The case of Khalif Browder, a young man who spent nearly 3 years at Rikers without trial, brought national attention to the facility's failures. Khalif endured physical and psychological abuse, and his mental health deteriorated to the point of attempting suicide multiple times before his release, only to take his life shortly after. The overcrowded and harsh conditions contribute to a high level of violence among inmates. Fights, assaults, and gang-related incidents are common, making Rikers a dangerous place for detainees. There have been numerous reports of abuse and excessive force by correctional officers. The jail has faced multiple investigations and lawsuits related to the mistreatment of inmates, including physical beatings, sexual abuse, and psychological harassment. Access to medical care is severely limited. Inmates with serious health conditions often do not receive timely or appropriate treatment. Mental health care is also grossly inadequate, despite the high prevalence of mental illness among the inmate population. Unsanitary conditions and overcrowding have led to outbreaks of infectious diseases such as tuberculosis, hepatitis, and MRSA. The lack of proper medical facilities and hygiene practices exacerbates these outbreaks. Rikers Island has been the subject of multiple federal investigations. In 2014, the U.S. Department of Justice issued a report highlighting the pervasive use of excessive force by staff and the failure to protect inmates from violence. Numerous lawsuits have been filed against the New York City Department of Correction, NYCDOC, for abuse, neglect, and failure to provide adequate medical care. Settlements and judgments have cost the city millions of dollars. Rikers Island has not gone without notice. Efforts to reform the facility have been ongoing, and there are plans to close it by 2027, replacing it with smaller borough-based jails. But the deep-seated issues require more than just new buildings. They demand a complete overhaul of the system that allowed such conditions to persist. Local politicians and community leaders have also pushed for the jail's closure and the construction of more modern and humane facilities. In 2017, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio announced a plan to close Rikers Island within 10 years, citing its history of violence and abuse. Efforts have been made to improve mental health care within the jail, including the establishment of specialized mental health units. However, these initiatives have often been criticized as insufficient. Plans have been proposed to upgrade the facility's infrastructure, improve sanitation, and reduce overcrowding. These plans have faced budgetary and logistical challenges. Rikers Island is widely regarded as one of the worst detention facilities in the United States due to its appalling sanitary conditions, severe overcrowding, high levels of violence, and inadequate medical care. Despite numerous calls for reform and closure, the facility remains operational, subjecting inmates to inhumane conditions. The history of scandals, investigations, and high-profile incidents highlights the deep-rooted issues within the jail and underscores the urgent need for comprehensive reforms to protect the rights and well-being of those incarcerated within its walls. The plan to close Rikers Island represents a significant step towards addressing these issues, but it also highlights the ongoing challenges faced by the broader correctional system in New York City and across the United States. Rikers Island stands as a stark reminder of the failures of the American justice system. Its overcrowding, violence, and neglect paint a grim picture of a place where survival trumps rehabilitation, and fear overshadows hope.